Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, had a legendary appetite that matched his legendary talent. But there was a shocking moment that revealed just how deep his hunger went. It was the early 1970s, and Elvis was at the height of his fame. One night after a grueling concert, he was backstage with his Memphis Mafia, a group of close friends and bodyguards. They were all exhausted, but Elvis was still buzzing with energy. He grabbed the phone and dialed the kitchen. "Hello, kitchen, this is Elvis," he said, his voice dripping with charm. "I need a few things. First, I want a dozen cheeseburgers, extra cheese, extra bacon. Then, I need a large pizza with everything on it. Oh, and can you throw in a few orders of fries and some onion rings, and a couple of milkshakes, one chocolate and one vanilla. Oh, and a side of nachos, extra cheese, please." He paused, looking around the room at his friends, who were staring at him with wide eyes. "You guys want anything?" he asked, almost as an afterthought. The kitchen staff, used to Elvis' extravagant orders, didn't bat an eye. They knew this was just another night with the king. But for those in the room, it was a shocking reminder of just how much Elvis could eat. Elvis's appetite was legendary, and it wasn't just about the quantity. He loved all kinds of food, from southern comfort food to fast food. His favorite restaurant was Arby's, and he would often send his entourage to pick up massive orders of roast beef sandwiches. He was known to eat entire pizzas and boxes of fried chicken in one sitting, but it wasn't always like this. When Elvis was born in Tupelo, Mississippi, his mother, Gladys, had a difficult delivery. She was hemorrhaging and had to be taken to the hospital. Elvis, just a newborn, went with her. Despite the dire circumstances, Gladys managed to breastfeed him as she recovered. It was a small act of love that would shape the man he would become. As Elvis grew up, food became a source of comfort and joy. In the early days of his fame, he would often treat his friends and family to lavish meals. But as his career soared, so did his stress and his appetite. The pressures of fame, the breakdown of his marriage, and the constant scrutiny took their toll. Food became a way to cope, a way to feel in control in a world that was spinning out of control. One of Elvis's closest friends, drummer Ronnie Tutt, once joked that Elvis was like Clark Kent. He could pop into a phone booth, and out would come the guy with the freshly dyed black hair and the suit with the cape. There he was, Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. But behind that persona was a man struggling with his demons, and one of those demons was his insatiable hunger. The night of the massive kitchen order was just one of many. It was a glimpse into the life of a man who, despite his fame and fortune, was still just a human being, dealing with the same struggles and desires as everyone else. For Elvis, food was more than just sustenance. It was a way to connect, to feel loved, and to find a moment of peace in a chaotic world. But as the night wore on and the food arrived, the room filled with the aroma of cheese, bacon, and fried dough. Elvis dug in, his friends watching in awe. And for a brief moment, the king of rock and roll was just a man, enjoying a meal with his friends, trying to forget the world outside. Elvis grew up in a poor family in Tupelo, Mississippi. His Aunt Lillian had a garden where they grew vegetables, and meals often included cornbread, fried okra, beans, and milk. Meat was a rarity, but when they did have it, it was usually squirrel, possum, rabbit, or deer. The squirrels were skinned, seasoned, and fried in butter. Fish, however, was not a favorite of Elvis's because he didn't like the taste or smell. As Elvis grew older, his love for junk food grew. At the movies, he enjoyed Reese's peanut butter cups, jujubes, and Pepsi. He often watched TV with a bowl of cookies on his lap. One of his favorite snacks was a peanut butter and banana sandwich, fried on both sides. When he was a teenager, he even made himself bacon and eggs at a friend's house while waiting for them. When Elvis moved to Memphis and then to Graceland, his mother, Gladys, cooked his favorite meals. He was worried about joining the army because he thought it would change his eating habits, but he was pleased to find that his first army meal was sausages and fried eggs. Despite his love for food, Elvis stayed in good shape before and after his time in the army, which was important for his film roles. In 1963, Elvis hired a cook named Mary Jenkins for Graceland. She stayed with him until he died and even after. Mary's book, Elvis the Way I Knew Him, gives a lot of insight into Elvis's life. She was more than just a cook. She was a crucial part of his life. She made sure he had everything he wanted, from 6-egg omelets with burnt bacon to cheeseburgers and hot fudge sundaes. Elvis often ate out too. He and his friends would go to Colette's Italian restaurant in Memphis for late-night pizza. He also enjoyed Colonel Sanders' chicken from KFC. When Elvis started performing in Las Vegas, he looked fit and healthy, but things changed in the 1970s. He gained weight, and his eating habits became more excessive. Mary Jenkins said, "Eating was the only thing that gave him any pleasure." One of Elvis's most famous food stories is about the Fool's Gold Loaf. He was on tour in Colorado and heard about this sand, which made with peanut butter, jelly, and burnt bacon. He was so excited that he flew to Denver in the middle of the night to get it. The sandwich was huge, and he even had more flown back to Memphis. In the last years of his life, Elvis's eating habits were a mix of trying to slim down and indulging in his favorite foods. In 1975, he met a nurse named Marion Koch who made him a banana pudding. He ate it all in one sitting. In 1977, he woke up in Baltimore at 4 p.m. and demanded a hot fudge sundae for breakfast. He ended up eating 5 of them before his show, and his performance of Hurt that night was intense and emotional. On the day of his death, August 16, 1977, Elvis was on a diet but suddenly had a craving. He ate 4 scoops of ice cream and 6 cookies. This was his last meal. Elvis's eating habits were a reflection of his life. They showed his love for comfort and his struggle with self-control. Despite the ups and downs, his food was a constant in his life, bringing him joy and at times comfort. Elvis and his group arrived in San Francisco on April 7th, eager to watch a karate championship. Elvis wanted to participate but was stopped by Colonel Parker, who reminded him about a contract in Lake Tahoe. The contract forbade him from appearing within a 300-mile radius for 30 days. Annoyed, Elvis watched the event from the stands. On April 22nd, Elvis started a month-long tour with 25 shows at the State Line, formerly the Sahara Tahoe Hotel. Despite his enthusiasm, Elvis was overweight, groggy, and had trouble focusing. After a 6-week break, he went on another tour, playing in places like the Nassau Coliseum in New York, and cities such as Nashville, Oklahoma City, and Atlanta. His performance in St. Louis on June 28th was one of his best. Elvis met Muhammad Ali, who loved Elvis's jumpsuits. For Ali's fight against Ken Norton in March 1973, Elvis had a special robe made with rhinestones and People's Choice on the back. Ali loved it, but lost the fight and never wore it again. On July 21, 1973, Elvis started a week of recording at Stax Studios in Memphis. The studio was known for soul music, and Elvis planned to record 30 songs with his band and some American sound musicians. The sessions were produced by Felton Jarvis, but Elvis was the executive producer. However, things didn't go as planned. Elvis rejected many songs, and the ones they recorded lacked his usual energy. The best performance was Take Good Care of Her, a song about wishing the new man well, which was very different from Elvis's usual style. Elvis appreciated Tony Joe White's songs, recording For All Time's Sake, a song about regret and lost love, and I've Got a Thing About You Baby, a funky rhythm with playful lyrics. He also recorded Just a Little Bit, a song with an insidious rhythm, and If You Don't Come Back, a sultry revival of a Drifter's B-side. However, Elvis seemed detached during these recordings. Elvis recorded 3 Corn Patches, a bluesy song about a poor girl with a bulldog, and Find Out What's Happening, which sounded like something from his film days. It's Different Now was rehearsed but not completed and sounded like a Bobby Goldsboro song. One of the oddest tracks was Raised on Rock, a song about growing up in the 50s and loving the music on the radio. It was a strange choice for Elvis, as it made little sense without modifying the lyrics. Some musicians thought Elvis would be finished after 3 nights and booked other work. Felton Jarvis had to find replacements quickly, and Donald Duck Dunn and Al Jackson from the Stax Studio Band were available. When Elvis arrived, he found his personal microphone stolen and left the building in a rage. Felton Jarvis recorded some tracks in hopes that Elvis would return, but he didn't. Elvis was to add vocals to Girl of Mine and Sweet Angeline, but other songs were never completed. Elvis remained touchy all summer. He performed 59 shows at the Las Vegas Hilton, but argued with everyone. He had a wrestling match in his hotel suite with a young woman and broke her ankle. She pressed charges, but they were dropped when Elvis apologized and paid her hospital bills. Elvis hurt his wrist while breaking karate boards. On September 2nd, he added a late show at 3 a.m. and was overcome with laughter. Elvis and Tom Jones had a misunderstanding when Elvis played "Killing Me Softly" with his song over and over on the piano. When Chris Ellis, Elvis's road manager, took the piano stool away, Elvis felt insulted. Tom Jones called Elvis to resolve the issue. Elvis helped Donnie, J.D. Sumner's stepson, form a vocal group called Voice. Elvis arranged an audition for them with Tom Jones, but decided to keep them for himself. He gave them a contract written on toilet paper worth $100,000 a year and said, "I'm gonna be your manager." RCA pushed Elvis to record again. They offered to record him in his living room in Palm Springs in September. With a small band, Elvis recorded "I Miss You," a ballad about lost love, and "Are You Sincere?", a hit for Andy Williams in 1958. Felton Jarvis asked Elvis to add a vocal to "Sweet Angeline," but that was it. It was a lot of effort for just 7 minutes of music. "Sweet Angeline" was a British song with a churchy feel. Chris Arnold, one of the songwriters, said it was perfect for Elvis's gospel tradition. On September 30th, Colonel Parker negotiated a new contract for future appearances at the Hilton. Elvis found a month at a time hard, so it would now be for 2-week engagements. A week later, Elvis and Priscilla were in court for their divorce settlement. Priscilla was awarded $725,000 plus $4,000 a month, and the same for child support. They left the court together, hand in hand. Elvis was worried about his health. He was incontinent and impotent, and when he had trouble breathing, he was admitted to the Baptist Memorial Hospital under the name Aaron Civil. He was diagnosed with pneumonia, pleurisy, hepatitis, and an enlarged colon. He was addicted to painkillers and was detoxing but refused to see a psychiatrist. Elvis's erratic behavior included shooting at Graceland. He narrowly missed Linda Thompson when he put a bullet through the bathroom door. His TV criticism was fierce. When Robert Goulet messed up the Star-Spangled Banner, Elvis shouted at the TV and threw cheeseburgers and milk at the screen. He kept the TV, which was later sold at auction. Hamburger James had to destroy Elvis's rubbish, especially from hotels, to hide any traces of his health issues. Elvis thought James had taken compromising photos of Priscilla and planned to sell them to a tabloid. Elvis and his men raced to the airport, where Elvis, flashing his narcotics badge, dragged James from his seat. He let him go on the condition that he kept quiet. Elvis was protective of his friends. When Jimmy Dean complained about being kept waiting, Elvis pulled out his Derringer and said, "I ought to blow your head off for talking to me like that." However, when Joe Maschio's apartment was ransacked, Elvis told him to make a list of what was stolen and said, "I will take care of it." Elvis was obliged to give RCA 28 new studio tracks in 1973, but so far they only had 11. He returned to Stax studio on December 10th for a week of sessions with a small band, including Voice and the Stamps. Elvis didn't want to miss a baseball match, so he bought widescreen TV for the studio and had them fill the packaging with hamburgers. There were too many for the musicians, and the leftovers were given to the needy. On the 4th day, they only cut one song, "Talk About the Good Times," because someone forgot to order food. Elvis went home and didn't return. He recorded "I Got a Feelin' in My Body," a gospel song with a soul groove, and "If That Isn't Love," a passionate gospel song. He also recorded "Help Me," a country song by Larry Gatlin, and "You Asked Me To," a song by Billy Joe Shaver, which Waylon Jennings made famous. Elvis was interested in contemporary country music and recorded "There's a Honky Tonk Angel," a song by Troy Seals. Conway Twitty had recorded it, and it became a #1 U.S. country hit in January 1974. Elvis could have had the hit if he had rushed it out. Billy Ed Wheeler, a songwriter and entertainer, wrote "It's Midnight," a desolate ballad of lost love. Elvis sang it occasionally on stage. Wheeler's co-writer, Jerry Chestnut, was friends with Lamar Fike, one of Elvis's gophers. Lamar took their songs to Elvis, and Wheeler joined them for a round of golf. On one hole, Wheeler asked Lamar what he shot, and Lamar said 13, but Wheeler counted 15 strokes. Lamar laughed, saying, "I didn't know we were playing to Pierrot rules." Elvis's life was a mix of highs and lows, from his incredible performances to his personal struggles. Despite everything, he remained a legend, and his music continued to touch hearts around the world. Elvis had a unique relationship with the songs he chose to perform. When he first heard Lamar's songs, he joked, thinking they were all about him and Priscilla, but Lamar knew better. Elvis didn't need Lamar to pick out songs about his personal life. He could do that himself. For example, when he heard Loving Arms, written by Tom Jans, he knew it was a hit. The song was originally recorded by Dobie Gray, and it had a sensitive, country feel that reminded Elvis of Chris Christopherson's style. Elvis decided to record it, and it became a hit. Elvis was also considering another song from Dobie Gray's album, We Had It All, but he changed his mind, fearing it would make people think he was singing about Priscilla. This shows how much Elvis cared about his fans' perceptions. He even had similar music tastes to his then-wife, as they both had copies of Rita Coolidge's album. One of the songs Elvis recorded, She Wears My Ring, had an interesting origin. It was based on a Mexican song called La Golondrina by Narciso Cerradil Sevilla. The song was given English lyrics by the Bryants, a Nashville songwriting team. Roy Orbison had recorded it, but it didn't become a hit until Ray Price covered it in a country style. Gordon Mills, who managed Tom Jones, thought the song had potential and had Solomon King, a performer with a big voice, record it. The song became a hit in the UK and the US, and Elvis loved it. Elvis's connection to songs often went deeper than just the music. For example, My Boy was written by Bill Martin and Phil Coulter for Richard Harris, who was going through a divorce. When Elvis heard the song, he felt a strong connection to it, especially after his separation from Priscilla. He recorded it in 1973, and it topped the adult contemporary chart in the US. Elvis listened to the playback over 30 times, showing how much he loved the song. Elvis also recorded Spanish Eyes, originally an instrumental by Bert Kaempfert. Al Martino had written English lyrics for it, and it became a hit. Elvis's version was a loving tribute to Martino's voice. When Chuck Berry was in prison, he wrote The Promised Land, a song about a journey from Norfolk, Virginia to Los Angeles. Elvis's version was faster and more energetic, giving it a sense of urgency. He also recorded The Most Beautiful Girl, written by Rory Burke for Charlie Rich. The song was a hit, but some critics thought the chorus was not as distinctive as it could have been. Despite the success of these recordings, Elvis was not feeling well. He spent the Christmas season depressed, often alone in his bedroom. His health issues were becoming more serious. Dr. Nishapoulos, his doctor, admitted him to the hospital in 1973 to try to help him with his addiction to Demerol. However, Elvis could get drugs from other doctors, making it difficult to control his addiction. In 1974, Elvis returned to the Las Vegas Hilton for a series of shows. He had to get back into shape and out of his slump. The shows were pushed back a day to avoid clashing with Sinatra's closing night at Caesar's Palace. The Vegas shows were intense, and Elvis put on a remarkable performance, especially during How Great Thou Art, which won a Grammy. Elvis's life was not without its challenges. In May 1974, a drunk partygoer named Edward Ashley tried to get into Elvis's suite. When he couldn't get in, he started turning the power on and off. Sonny West, one of Elvis's bodyguards, hit him, and Elvis thought Ashley was trying to kidnap Lisa Marie. Elvis was ready for action, holding a .45 and a Thompson submachine gun. Ashley was eventually handcuffed and put on a bed. He later sued Elvis, which cost him a significant amount of money. Elvis also had a run-in with the Sahara Tahoe Hotel. A waiter named Mario told Elvis that his wife was dying of cancer. Elvis visited her, but the hotel fired Mario, thinking he was taking advantage of his position. Elvis was furious and lambasted the hotel from the stage. This caused a rift with Colonel Parker, who was worried about future contracts. Elvis fired the colonel, but they eventually made up. Throughout 1974, Elvis continued to tour, performing in various cities. He even tried a new look and new material for his Las Vegas shows, but the audience preferred his old hits. He was still active in karate, receiving his 8th degree black belt in August. However, his health was deteriorating, and he missed 2 shows due to illness. Elvis's personal life was also complicated. He was dating Sheila Ryan, a former Playboy cover girl, but Priscilla was still a part of his life. During a show in Vegas, he dedicated "And I Love You So" to Sheila, making a joke about his ex-husband, Mike Stone. The show was one of his best, lasting almost 2 hours. Elvis's life was a mix of high moments and low points. He continued to perform, tour, and record, but his health and personal issues were taking a toll. Despite everything, he remained a beloved figure, with fans sending him thousands of birthday cards. Even when he received a box containing 2 girls, he handled it with a mix of humor and professionalism. For Elvis, the show always went on, even when the personal challenges were overwhelming. Elvis Presley's life was a roller coaster of ups and downs, especially in the mid-1970s. Despite his fame and wealth, he faced personal and professional challenges that threatened to overshadow his incredible talent. In January, Elvis showed his generous side by buying 11 Cadillacs for his friends. He also tried to buy a Boeing 707 that belonged to Robert Vesco, a friend of Richard Nixon who had fled the country. Elvis put down a deposit, but the deal fell through because Vesco's team would claim the plane if it left the U.S. This incident suggested that Elvis was thinking about traveling abroad, but it didn't happen. Elvis' health began to deteriorate. On January 29th, he was admitted to Baptist Memorial Hospital, possibly for a detox. A week later, his father, Vernon, who had recently split from his wife, Dee, had a heart attack and was admitted to the same hospital. Elvis and Vernon were placed in adjacent beds. Vernon blamed Elvis for his heart attack, saying, "You worried your mama right into her grave." In early March, Elvis recorded a new album called Today. He worked with his road band and recorded 10 songs. While the album's songs were well chosen, they weren't particularly innovative. One hit Elvis covered was "I Can Help" by Billy Swan. Billy wrote the song when his wife was pregnant, and Elvis recorded a fantastic version of it. He even gave Billy a pair of his socks as a souvenir, which Billy framed and kept. Elvis also recorded "Fairytale," a song by the Pointer Sisters. He performed it in concerts, saying it was the story of his life. Another song he covered was "Green, Green Grass of Home," inspired by a scene in the 1950 film The Asphalt Jungle. Originally a country hit, it became a pop sensation when Tom Jones recorded it. Elvis loved the song so much that he had someone call the radio station to play it repeatedly while driving home for Christmas. In March, Elvis returned to the Las Vegas Hilton for a 2-week residency. During a show, he interacted with the audience, showing his kind and sometimes humorous side. However, he also showed his darker side when a fan yelled, "I hate you, Elvis," and he responded, "Fuck you." Elvis' personal life continued to be eventful. He bought a Convair 880 jet and named it the Lisa Marie after his daughter. This allowed him to travel to concerts quickly and privately. On tour, he sometimes acted erratically, like firing water pistols on stage and sweating profusely. His drug use was becoming a serious issue, and he would often take large amounts of pills to sleep and stay awake. Despite his struggles, Elvis could still be generous. On July 27th, he bought 14 Cadillacs for his friends, including one for a bank teller he met at the car lot. He also showed his kind side by giving away guitars and diamond rings during shows. In August, Elvis had a health scare while flying to Las Vegas. The plane had to make an emergency landing in Dallas because he was having trouble breathing. The shows in Vegas were canceled due to his extreme fatigue. His drug use was affecting his performances, and he often asked the sweet inspirations to take over when he wasn't feeling well. Elvis' health and behavior were concerning, but he could still be active. In October, he bought some 3-wheeled motorcycles and rode around Memphis with his friend Linda. He even installed a sauna and racquetball court at Graceland to stay fit. In December, Elvis made up for lost bookings at the Las Vegas Hilton. He was in good form and performed "America the Beautiful" and "Crying in the Chapel" in a medley. He also did a duet with Sean Nielsen called "Softly as I Leave You," a song he believed was about a man writing a note on his deathbed. Elvis worked on New Year's Eve for the first time since 1957, performing at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan, to a crowd of 62,000. The show was a success, but it wasn't without incident. Elvis split his trousers and kept singing while the band played Auld Lang Syne. An audience member with a gun caused a commotion, but Elvis brushed it off, saying he would deal with it later. Elvis' life was a mix of generosity, creativity, and personal struggles. Despite the challenges, he continued to connect with his fans and showcase his talent. The final years of his life were a testament to his resilience, but they also highlighted the toll his lifestyle was taking on him. Elvis Presley's career was filled with amazing moments, but it also had a fair share of what-ifs and missed opportunities. In January 2004, I saw Elvis Presley's TCB band at the Olympia in Liverpool. The show was great, but it was predictable until the bass player, Jerry Sheff, announced they were going to play a song he had written for Elvis, called Fire Down Below. The song was recorded in 1976, and when the TCB band played it live, it sounded like a powerful rocker, much like Burning Love. It was clear that this song could have been a hit for Elvis. In January 1977, Elvis went to Nashville for recording sessions, but flew home without going to the studio. The reason wasn't that he disliked the songs. He had a falling out with his girlfriend. The backing tracks were recorded, but Elvis never added his vocals. These songs included That's What You Do to Me, Energy, Rainy Night in Georgia, By Day, Let Me On, and Yes I Do. Dennis Lind, who wrote Burning Love, thought By Day had gospel elements and would have been perfect for Elvis. Alan Rush, a musician who worked with Dennis Lind, had a song called Wild and Woolly Ways that Jerry Lee Lewis recorded in 1978. It would have fit Elvis's style as well. There was even a chance that Elvis might have recorded Mustang Wine, a song by Steve Earle, who later became a famous songwriter. Carl Perkins recorded Mustard Wine, and it could have been a great fit for Elvis. David Bellamy of the Bellamy Brothers told me that Felton Jarvis, who was producing Elvis, got hold of their version of Miss Misunderstood and recorded the backing track for Elvis. Unfortunately, Elvis never added his vocals. After Elvis's death, Carl Perkins was brought in, but the key was wrong for him. Bruce Springsteen wrote a song called Fire for Elvis, which could have been a big hit. The Pointer Sisters later took it to no. 2 in the U.S. charts in 1978. David Bowie thought Golden Years would suit Elvis, but Bowie's image was too different from Elvis's. Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You was a country hit, and Elvis saw its potential, but Dolly wouldn't make a deal with Hill and Range. Bob Cheevers, a country singer, received an annual charity check from Elvis. One day, he used Elvis's toilet at Graceland. Years later, Elvis died before he could record one of Bob's songs, Big City Gambler, and he died on the toilet, maybe the same one. It's a funky song that would have fit well with the songs Elvis was recording by Jerry Reed. Jon Stewart, known for Daydream Believer, said that Elvis used to sing July You're a Woman in the dressing room before going on stage. John was asked to submit songs to Elvis, and he wrote Runaway Fool of Love. He sent it in but never heard back. John never gave up hope that Elvis might record it. Several writers who had previously written for Elvis had new material for him. Elvis liked Loving You's a Natural Thing by George Cline and Mark James, and he was planning a disco single with Mark's Disco Rider. Paul Evans, who wrote I Gotta Know, Blue River, and The Next Step is Love, submitted new songs to Elvis before he died. Paul had high hopes for Quiet Desperation, a song based on a quote from Thoreau. He also submitted a gentle love ballad with gospel overtones called Tender Moments. Elvis was known for singing snippets of songs he liked. On stage in 1975, he broke into Roses Are Red, My Love, a U.S. No, one for Bobby Vinton in 1962. He also sang parts of Roy Orbison's It's Over, Running Scared, and Crying. Elvis mentioned Jimmy Jones' 1960 single, Ready for Love, in rehearsals, and he was partial to Earl Grant's 1958 hit, The End. The British songwriting team of Chris Arnold, David Martin, and Jeff Morrow wrote Where Would I Be for Elvis and were about to record it before he died. Russ Ballard, who wrote God Gave Rock and Roll to You, met Elvis's music publisher, Freddie Bienstock, who liked Ballard's She's So in Love. Ballard was willing to give the whole song to Elvis, but it never happened. Lulu recorded the song instead. Elvis might have recorded several favorites, including Bill Monroe's Uncle Pen, the Louvin Brothers' Satan's Jeweled Crown, and the Skyliners, Since I Don't Have You. He identified with Chris Christopherson's songs and would have recorded more, like If You Don't Like Hank Williams, You Can Kiss My Ass and Sunday Morning Calmin' Down. Cliff Richard had a UK hit in 1963 with The Next Time, and the US songwriter Buddy K thought Elvis's version could sell millions. Elvis liked middle-of-the-road hits like Morris Albert's Feelings, and the Captain and Tennille's Love Will Keep Us Together. He also enjoyed the amazing Rhythm Aces' Third-Rate Romance. Steve Binder, a TV producer, asked Elvis if he would have recorded MacArthur Park if Jimmy Webb had brought it to him, and Elvis said he definitely would have. Roy Wood, a British songwriter, said he knew Elvis had heard his songs and liked them. Wood could have written Flowers in the Rain in Elvis's style. Music writer Ray Connolly said there were many missed opportunities for Elvis. He had the best voice of his generation and deserved the best songs. Why didn't they ask Paul Simon or Carole King to write for him? Elvis had little time for John Lennon, but he could have asked Paul or George for new songs. The Irish Elvis, known as the King, made albums with Presley-styled arrangements of songs he didn't record. He never would have recorded Sympathy for the Devil or Pretty Vacant, but Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Queen seemed possible. The mid-70s hit from the King's repertoire that would have appealed to Elvis was Lynyrd Skynyrd's Sweet Home Alabama. Elvis recorded many songs by Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, but they stopped writing for him after an argument with Colonel Parker. Elvis liked their 1977 hit for Elkie Brooks, Pearl's a Singer, so let's imagine he overruled Colonel Parker and recorded it. The song could easily be transferred to a honky-tonk setting, with one of those burlesque endings Elvis loved. Ray Dorsett from Mungo Jerry wrote Feels Like I'm in Love with Elvis in mind and recorded it Elvis style on his demo. His producer was about to send it to Elvis when they got a call saying Elvis had died. After that, Ray put the song aside for a while. All of these possibilities are plausible if Elvis had continued his career. However, the biggest change would have been if he had broken ties with Colonel Parker or given him a less significant role. Steve Binder, a TV producer, might have been a good choice for a rebooted Elvis. Elvis had invited Jack Good, another TV producer, to visit Graceland, but it's unknown what he had in mind. Colonel Parker's hold on Elvis would have ended. Why didn't another manager like Alan Klein make a bid for Elvis? Klein would have spotted the financial flaws. In 1976, both Jerry Weintraub and Tom Hewlett at Concerts West were thinking of sidestepping Parker, possibly by telling Presley directly that he deserved a better deal. Priscilla, Elvis's ex-wife, showed herself to be an excellent manager after his death. She might have tried to get Elvis away from Parker in the mid-70s. She would have seen his return to filmmaking, but with more control over the quality. Priscilla said, Elvis saw his potential as an actor. He felt he had the dramatic sensibility to pull off challenging parts. At the time of his death, Elvis was talking about opening a chain of karate schools and making a karate or kung fu film like Bruce Lee. This could have helped him get back into shape. Elvis also funded a documentary about karate, The New Gladiators, which was released in 2002. Elvis's film career was disappointing. He had some excellent performances in Jailhouse Rock and King Creole, and with the right director, he could have given Oscar-winning performances. Colonel Parker turned down The Defiant Ones, directed by Stanley Kramer, which was made in 1958 with Tony Curtis and Sidney Poitier. Parker also rejected West Side Story, where Elvis could have fit in with the ballads and action sequences. According to Lee Server's biography of Robert Mitchum, Baby I Don't Care, Mitchum wanted Elvis to play his younger brother in Thunder Road. Mitchum believed anyone who could sing could act. Mitchum showed up at Elvis's hotel with a script and said, "Let's get together and do it." Elvis said he had to discuss it with Parker, who quoted an astronomical fee. Colonel Parker rejected The Fugitive Kind, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and Sweet Bird of Youth, all based on Tennessee Williams plays. He also turned down a biopic of Hank Williams, because Elvis couldn't have the publishing rights to his songs. Parker blacklisted Leiber and Stoller after they pitched Elvis a musical based on Nelson Algren's A Walk on the Wild Side. These missed opportunities and what-ifs show how much more Elvis could have achieved if he had been free to make his own choices. His talent was undeniable, and with the right guidance, he could have become an even greater icon. After a short break in Memphis, Elvis, Linda Thompson, and their entourage flew to Denver, Colorado for a snowy holiday. Elvis rented 3 luxurious condos and some snowmobiles. He loved the thrill of riding the snowmobiles late at night, ignoring the safety rules. For his birthday, he went house hunting in Vail, looking like a terrorist in a ski mask and jumpsuit. He didn't buy anything this time, but he did develop a rash, adding to his health issues. On January 14th, Elvis went on a spending spree, buying cars for a disc jockey and some local police officers. They gave him a police uniform in return, which he wore to a police officer's funeral. The police warned Elvis to leave Colorado because they were worried about his drug possession. He and Linda flew to Los Angeles, where she auditions for some TV shows. RCA, Elvis Record Company, had tons of unused session tapes. They decided to release a series of albums called A Legendary Performer in January 1974. The albums included alternate takes and outtakes that hadn't been heard before. They were popular and well-reviewed, sparking interest in Elvis' unreleased material. This eventually led to the Follow That Dream series. The main issue was figuring out what to do with Elvis. He didn't mind recording, but didn't want to go to Nashville or Hollywood. So, RCA brought a mobile studio to Graceland. Elvis recorded with his musicians in the jungle room, but they had to turn off the waterfall first. During the recording sessions, Elvis showed up dressed as a Denver policeman. When Colonel Parker arrived to check on the sessions, Elvis was singing a naughty version of Timmy Euro's Hurt. Elvis knew Hurt from Roy Hamilton's 1954 recording and Timmy Euro's 1961 hit. He sang it calmly with a narrative and a Conway Twitty-like croak, but then he gave a powerful ending, similar to his performances of Unchained Melody and Softly As I Leave You. The final roar in Hurt was intense, reflecting his real troubles. Johnny Cash later had a similar, powerful ending in his version of Hurt. Elvis also recorded Solitaire, a ballad written by Neil Sedaka and Phil Cody. The Carpenters had a hit with it in 1975, and Andy Williams' version made the UK top 10. Neil Sedaka said he was inspired by Roberta Flack's voice and wanted to create a lonely, introspective feel. Elvis' version was strong, but Neil liked his own version best. Another emotional ballad was Bitter They Are, Harder They Fall, written by Larry Gatlin. The song had a small country hit for Gatlin in 1974. Larry said Elvis wasn't taking care of himself, but his voice still sounded good. Despite this, Elvis' version of the song was good. Elvis also recorded Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, a hit for Roy Acuff in 1947, and recently revived by Willie Nelson. Unfortunately, Elvis' version wasn't as stripped down and simple as Willie's, and the arrangement was too busy. He also recorded George Jones' She Thinks I Still Care, but his version lacked the plaintive feel the song needed. Elvis' take on He'll Have to Go was lackluster compared to Jim Reeves' warm and passionate version. Elvis sang The Last Farewell, a hit for Roger Whittaker in 1975. The song had a wartime feel and was recommended to Elvis by his girlfriend, Barbara Bonner. It was a good interpretation, showing Elvis' ability to handle different styles. Elvis also recorded Danny Boy, a classic song written in 1913. He sang it straight, without the rock feel Conway Twitty gave it in 1959. Wanderin', an old folk song, was rewritten by Lonnie Donegan and Jimmy Curry as I'll Never Fall in Love Again. Tom Jones made it a hit in 1967, and Elvis enjoyed it so much that he recorded it too. Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber's It's Easy for You was another British song. They sent it to Elvis in 1974, hoping he would record it. It took until 1976, one of Elvis' last sessions at Graceland, for him to finally record it. The song was a bit lackluster, but it showed Elvis' willingness to try new material. Elvis' regular writers weren't at their best during these sessions. Mark James' Moody Blue sounded like a typical club song, and Dennis Lynn's For the Heart was disappointing, despite its funky rhythm. Jerry Chestnut's Never Again and Love Coming Down didn't quite hit the mark either. The only R&B song, Pledging My Love, originally a hit for Johnny Ace in 1954, was a decent version but couldn't match the original's charm. Elvis recording sessions in the Jungle Room showed both his strengths and his struggles. While he could still deliver powerful performances, the material and arrangements sometimes didn't do him justice. Despite these challenges, Elvis continued to explore new songs and styles, even as his health and career faced increasing difficulties. Lang Martin Jr. had a lot of faith in the song he wrote for Elvis Presley, Way Down. He and his publisher, Ray Stevens, worked hard on a demo, making it sound just like Elvis. They sent it to Elvis's producer, Felton Jarvis, but didn't hear anything back. Lang tried again, and finally he got a surprise. Elvis had already recorded it. Lang was thrilled to see his name on a record with Elvis. Elvis's life in 1976 was a whirlwind. He was on a new touring schedule, performing for 2 weeks and then taking 3 weeks off. Despite feeling unwell, he started his tour in the southern states. One day a fan bit his lip, and the next day he ripped his jumpsuit on stage. His days were packed with early mornings and late nights. He'd wake up around 4 p.m., have a big breakfast, and get ready for his show by 8 p.m. During the show, he'd burst onto the stage with high energy, but the fans often caused chaos. After the concert, he'd be rushed to the airport, and once he got to the next city, he'd eat a lot, meet with his doctor, and try to sleep. It was a never-ending cycle. Sometimes Elvis found moments of clarity. On March 26th, he witnessed a car accident and used a police badge to help. In April, he got involved in a racquetball project, hoping it would make him and his friends rich. But Colonel Parker, his manager, was furious because Elvis had never endorsed anything before. Elvis's health was declining, and it showed in his performances. On August 28th, he gave a poor show in Houston, only lasting 22 minutes. His personal life was also tumultuous. His girlfriend, Linda Thompson, left him because of his drug use. But Elvis quickly moved on to new relationships, including one with Ginger Alden. Elvis's last few months were filled with ups and downs. He performed in Las Vegas, even though he was in pain. On December 5th, he sat on a chair during his performance, and despite his condition, he gave a powerful rendition of Hurt. He brought his daughter, Lisa Marie, on stage and gave her a golf cart for Christmas. In 1977, Elvis's health worsened and his shows became erratic. He struggled through songs that he once sang with ease. His bodyguards were writing a book that would expose his private life, and he knew it would be damaging. Despite his struggles, he kept performing, feeling responsible for the people who depended on him. On June 24th, Elvis and his bodyguards stopped to help someone being beaten up. He used his police badge and tried to calm the situation, showing a side of him that was often overlooked. His last concert was on June 26th in Indianapolis, where he gave a heartfelt performance of Bridge Over Troubled Water. Elvis's personal life was also in turmoil. He was planning to lose weight and exercise, but the publication of the book, Elvis: What Happened, and its sensationalized stories only added to his stress. He wrote in his notes, feeling alone and seeking help from the Lord. Elvis's last performance was supposed to be in Portland, Maine, on August 17th, but he never made it. On August 16th, 1977, Elvis Presley was found dead in his bathroom at Graceland. He was only 42 years old. His death shocked the world, and his fans mourned the loss of a legend. Despite the challenges and the darkness, Elvis's music and spirit lived on, inspiring generations to come.